It's a commonly held belief that to create great works of art, to get the best out of oneself as an artist, as a writer, or as a thinker, we need to look inwardly, seek solitude, and find our own artistic voice within. This is an assertion that dates back all the way to the Greek philosopher Plato, who in his allegory of the cave compared the external realm of the public or the material world to that of shadows on a wall. Plato's contention was that our reality is nothing more than an imperfect reflection of a higher level of existence, and that this higher realm is the domain of what are known as forms or ideas. Achieving an understanding of these divine concepts was the work of the philosophers, and these thinkers could only acquire this profound insight through study, deep thought, and introspection, or to put it another way, by looking inwardly. What Plato is in essence championing here is what the German-American philosopher Hannah Arendt calls the contemplative life. The contemplative life is the life of that afore alluded to artist who turns away from the public eye and seeks to find their own greatness from a place of solitude, searching for answers from within. Obviously, the contemplative life is not a lifestyle advocated uniquely by Plato. Many of the greatest artists and thinkers the world has ever known have sought to find their own self-expression in isolation. The great scientist Nikola Tesla said that the mind is sharper and keener in seclusion and uninterrupted solitude. Originality thrives in seclusion, free of outside influences, beating upon us to cripple the creative mind. Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is where ideas are born. Be alone. Inspiring words. Tesla's imperative and Plato's forms, they really do romanticize this idea of getting away from it all and finding our art or even ourselves in our own little secluded corner of the world. But the catch is, what works for some doesn't necessarily work for all, and 2014's Barakamon, a 13-episode series from Kinema Citrus, gives us a glimpse into another way of living, and that is the active life. The series follows the recently disgraced calligrapher Seishu Handa and his time spent living in the remote Goto Islands. A decorated artist, even at a relatively young age, Handa gets exiled to the islands by his father after assaulting a well-respected art director in a fit of rage. After the director had claimed that Handa's latest award-winning effort was mired in mediocrity and just plain dull. Almost immediately upon arriving on the island, it is revealed to us that Handa is treating his Goto adventure as an opportunity to recapture his loss of form through contemplative living and hopefully discover a new style therein. This is hardly surprising, as when someone trades one of the most densely populated cities in the world for a remote chain of islands, you'd be forgiven for believing the purpose was to get some peace and quiet. Handa certainly believes so. After meeting the village chief, he quickly dismisses him, asking, "Can you leave me alone for a week? I want to immerse myself in writing." Handa's dreams of a quiet life soon evaporate, however, as he discovers a young girl, the precocious Nara Kotoishi, hiding in the kitchen of his new home. After shooing off both the village chief and Nara, Handa is finally alone with his thoughts and sets about working on his latest creation. However, his peace and quiet are short-lived, and despite his best efforts to remove himself from all distraction, Nara continues to pull him away from the task at hand. After comically throwing her out of the house, he once more returns to thoughts of writing as he repeatedly chastises himself to focus. However, as Handa returns to his work again, Nara is there, awaiting him, and from that point forward, Handa's life on the island becomes overrun by life in general, as a small community begins to take shape around him, and as much as he tries to fight it early on, his house becomes a sort of halfway home for a variety of the island's youth, who over the next dozen episodes begin to radically broaden Handa's narrow horizons. Handa's father's parting words to his ill-tempered son before banishing him to the islands. And in the opening minutes of the series, we see Handa in one of his more reflective moments being emotionally self-aware enough to acknowledge that there is something flawed in him. Upon looking out at the ocean for the first time, Handa comments that maybe it doesn't look pretty because my heart's gone hard. The mistake Handa is making is that he attributes his problem to the heart, to something deep within him. That isn't the case. Handa's problem is with his eyes, or to be more concise, with his perception. The lesson Handa needs to learn, and in time will learn, is that if he wishes to become a better calligrapher, and by extension a better person, he needs to learn to live in and create art which reflects the world he is a part of, his world. Returning again to Arendt, in her book The Human Condition, she divided being a human into 3 distinct categories: labor, work, and action. On labor, she explains that these are the day-to-day activities all of us must execute in order for us to maintain our biological existence. These are the things that we must do or else we die. This category is the realm of universal human actions, such as eating, drinking, and sleeping. Even here, at the most basic of human levels, Handa has some trouble, as we see him hospitalized early on in the series from a combination of stress and exhaustion. Even eating poses some difficulty as he relies on the wife of the village chief Akiko for meals. The second category is what Arendt calls work. Work is in essence the creation of cultural artifacts. Every human must live somewhere, and as humans we all exist within a wider culture or society. Work for Arendt is the jobs that people do every day which contributes to making up the culture they reside in. Fishing, farming, teaching, making walls, delivering goods, all the tasks we see the islanders performing across the series itself both make up and reflect their culture. For Handa, his work is his calligraphy, and his art, like the other jobs of the islanders, contribute to the production of the society they are living in. The final category is the category Handa is most disconnected with prior to arriving on the island: action. Action is the part of human life that gives those cultural artifacts their meaning, and it is where all human relationships and the world itself are governed. It is the public or political realm. It is engaging with and participating in this realm which is the key to living, the act of life. Without this realm of action, the work that is being created, those cultural artifacts, can't have real meaning. For example, a painting would be just a painting. It would have no deeper cultural significance, as it is only when people come together in the public space that identity and meaning can be established for that painting. Think of the list of names painted on the board hanging above the doorway of the shrine that we see in episode 10. The names of the board catalog everybody in the village who had helped to build the shrine. A simple piece. Physically, it bears the same properties as any other work of calligraphy that a master calligrapher could produce, but what gives it its deeper cultural significance is its symbolic relationship to the village itself and to the people who reside there. When Nara's grandfather suggests to Handa that he can add his own name to the board, he is acknowledging that Handa too is a part of the very fabric of what makes the village the community that it is. Nara's words to Handa as she scales the wall overlooking the ocean in the opening episode of the series holds significance, as they are a reflection of the greater message of the series itself. Handa, as we come to learn over the course of Barakamon's 13 episodes, is woefully lacking in life experience. And while this is often played up for comic effect throughout the show itself, it also cuts to the core of what he needs to and eventually will overcome: his own perceptual imbalance. As he stands there alone at the base of the wall, awash in the shadows that it casts, he dismisses the idea of climbing up to view the sunset, claiming the clouds would drown out the view's promised majesty, telling Nara it would be a waste of time. In response, she tells him, "You won't know anything till you climb up and see. You don't try, you don't get to look." As Nara's outstretched hand reaches down expectingly towards him from the summit, Handa is then reminded of the stinging words of the art director and against his own judgment begins to climb. Upon reaching the top of the wall, he is confronted by the beauty of the descending sun as it gracefully peeks out behind the scattering clouds, its reflection illuminating the ocean panorama. Nara asks, "Ain't it pretty?" And Handa responds, "Yes, it really is." The moment beautifully captures the power of engaging in the act of life, as it reveals to us a truth that in moments of weakness, when help is needed, it can in fact be essential and not a sign of weakness at all for the artist to draw upon others for inspiration and guidance. Handa got to experience and be inspired by that moment, and it was only because he allowed himself to be distracted from what he should be doing. And as the series progresses, he wins many more victories like this one, as he continually allows himself to be distracted in exchange for a multitude of new experiences with his island family. And with each new adventure, he begins to develop context for the nuances of the life of the island community, as well as gaining a greater understanding of who he really is as a person. He gets to look. Moments like these become crucial for Handa's development into the artist he is becoming by the conclusion of the series. Engaging in the act of life is a fundamental element of the human experience, and just as the identity of cultural artifacts like the piece in the shrine are established in the active realm, so too is our own personal identity. As the series develops and as Handa develops alongside it, the markers of his own self-identity finally begin to become fully rounded and then take root in his art. At the outset of the series, we are introduced to a man who identified as a calligrapher, and beyond that, there was not much else. Handa was an artist who religiously stuck to the fundamentals of the practice and aped the style of his father. The pieces he produced was the work of a skilled craftsman, but not an artist. Recognition, not expression, was the nature of the game, and it was inevitable that someone like the director would eventually see through his hollow efforts and reject its utilitarian nature. This was an artist who fell into a state of depression upon coming second in a calligraphy competition. The person and the artist we see at the end of the series is something radically different. His final piece, Stone Wall, a list of names of the friends he had made while living on the island. His masterpiece and his most personal work to date captures everything that became important to Seishu Handa, the person, and creating it drew everything out of Seishu Handa, the artist. The inspiration for the piece was a simple phone call with his friends back on the island and the memories of the time he had shared with them that call had evoked as he finally discovered his own artistic expression. His final words to Nara and the final words we hear from him capture the spirit of the journey he has taken as an artist and as a person. When I see you having fun with no thought for anything else, it has an influence on me too. These are the moments that are important to me. And that's all for this one. If you made it this far, I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and please consider subscribing with the notification bell turned on. Please and thank you. All the social media links are in the description below, so please give us a follow and maybe leave a comment with what you thought of Barakamon or with any topic suggestions for a future video you'd like to see covered on this channel. Additionally, if you are feeling extra generous and want to go that extra mile, maybe consider sharing the video. It really helps with growth by getting new eyes on it. Finally, check out my anime podcast titled My Anime Podcast. Easy enough to remember. Links are in the description below, and we even covered Barakamon back in episode 70, so maybe consider checking out that episode if you want more Barakamon related content. Until next time, bye bye, love you, bye.